That's the last session, a little summary. Breathing related to 1, balancing the nervous system. 2, balancing the metabolism. 3, detoxifying the brain. And 4, cooling the brain. 5, making sound, which is where we came in last time. We're talking a bit more about sound today. We'll do a little bit of practice with the Om, and then we'll talk a little bit about color and healing in general. Some principles of healing, also related to breath, color, and sound. First of all, let's just loosen up a little bit. Just make sure that, this area, upper thorax, is open. And that your head is reasonably flexible and straight on your shoulders. I have a little mantra. Look up, stand up, breathe. When I'm standing up, I've got a tendency to slump. So I look up, and looking up is important. Look up. Look up, because it has a salubrious effect on the whole body. Looking up. What the eyes do, the body often follows. Talk a little bit more about eyes and focus later on today. So looking up. If you're depressed, you don't look up. You're just looking down. And the constant looking down at one's phone or computer screen, very, very, very bad for the psyche. You should look up. There's infinity up there. Relate to infinity, not to computer screen. So my mantra is look up, stand up, straight, relax the shoulders, and breathe. Can't go wrong. Look up, stand up, breathe. So we're a little bit loosened up. In summary, another little summary piece, the default breath is sitting reasonably erect, but comfortable. We don't want to do anything that's uncomfortable. We're not Zen monks. In a reasonably comfortable upright position, we're breathing through the nose. We're breathing abdominally. Relaxed abdominal breaths. We're softening the eyes. We can keep our eyes open, it doesn't matter, as long as we soften them, we defocus them. We have a little enigmatic smile on our faces, the so-called thalamic smile. We relax. And as we relax into that relaxed diaphragmatic breath, the breath becomes softer, slower, and subtler. Softer, slower, subtler. Until we are breathing very subtly, and that is when we begin to sense the pranic essence, the nectar which is within the breath. The breath was within the breath. And that's our default setting. And we don't have to do the whole shebang. As long as we return to the default breath for a minute or two, frequently during the day, perhaps coinciding with what our body-mind is looking for as an ultradian break. Relaxing, allowing the breath to become soft and subtle and slow. The body knows how that feels. Am I just saying it to you? Subtle soft, and slow. Your body-mind recognizes what that is. You just have to repeat that to yourself. That's your mantra. Soft, subtle, and slow. You say it to yourself in a soft, subtle, slow manner, allowing the sound to fall away. That is how we relax. On the downbeat, on the exhalation. The exhalation and the downbeat. Very good. Okay. Now, sound. The word we talked about, the world as sound. Just show you this interesting book called Water Sound Images by Alexander Lauterwasser. This is a book of images of water which is being vibrated in particular ways. Amazing images. There's one. There's another one. And it's astonishing the way water responds to sound with these standing wave images, as on the front of the book, which often resemble organic forms, particularly organic forms from the plant kingdom. So that's pretty darn good. Very interesting book. Water Sound Images by Lauterwasser. We talked about toning last time, creating a sound, a tone. Everybody has this capacity to create tones which are therapeutic for their body, mind, and spirit, as we say. You can experiment by going up and down the scale and finding which tones are a little bit sort of muffled or flat or lacking in vitality for you. They will tend to be your weak notes. In the octave of vibrations in your body, that'll tend to be the weak spot. There are programs actually where you can find your weak notes and sometimes your overly strong notes. I've used one of those programs for many years, but I've unfortunately not been able to get an update so far on it. It's developed by a Spanish sound therapist called Maria Gonzalez Sterling. If you could look at her work on Planetary Art Network, Planetary Art Network. Some fascinating stuff to do with color and sound. So everyone has a personal soundscape which you can explore just by going up and down through the scale, doing your singing practice, and there are areas which are more difficult for you and easier, and areas that are easier for you, and that'll give you a clue as to maybe some of the areas you may need to practice. I mean, something, but obviously people who are training their voice do every day in their daily practice. Very, very beneficial to do this. Remember, our personality is persona through sound. Persona. That's what I am projecting through sound. We were saying last time that's a controlled way of producing sound. You can use uncontrolled ways, so-called uncontrolled. You can sigh, you can groan, you can loosen up, loosen up. See, immediately my voice gets louder. It's fantastic. More energy, stimulating this particular energy center and allowing the voice to loosen up all over the lung, the respiratory field. You can loosen the voice up. Fantastic. To project sound. Fantastic. Can't beat it. Projecting sound. Controlled or uncontrolled. So we discussed last time the controlled toning using Om. Om. And this is very profound practice because esoterically, Om is the seed syllable of the universe. Everything is created out of this seed, this sound. And there's quite a good discussion about all of this in several books. I mentioned one to you last time, The World is Sound. But this book, which I also mentioned last time in connection with the pause at the end of expiration by Caponegro, is got a very excellent discussion about the mystical aspects of sound production. You know, it's an endless study. Sound is endless. You could spend lifetimes just studying the therapeutics and self-development aspects of sound. So we're going to practice Om in a second. One more thing I'll say while I'm wiseacring here, and that is the essence of everything we do is ultimately to be relaxed and alert. Relaxed and alert. And to attain a state, relaxation and alertness, whatever we do, we keep it simple. Just keep it simple. There's nothing elaborate here in the breathing practice or sound production or using color, or in fact, in the general principles of healing. It's all very simple. It's as the sage Ramana Maharshi said, an open secret. Keep simple, stay simple. And one final thing, a word about the vagus. Now, people ask me a lot about the vagus, and I've put in your notes, there are many vagal misunderstandings. There's nothing special about the vagus per se. It's part of an elaborate circuit which helps you to relax, recover, and regenerate. So whenever you hear the word vagus, just substitute the word relax. You know, how can I stimulate my vagus? How can I relax? Does vagal stimulation work? Does relaxation work? Etc., etc. The vagus, put in relax, and all will be well. Okay, now let's do a little bit of practice on Om. First of all, so we're going to do 4-8 breathing, 4 in, 8 out. 4 in, and for a count of 8, we're going to do ah to start. Just practice our ahs. Then we're going to practice our oohs, then practice our mms, then put them all together and practice our oms. Practice of Om, it's a very profound practice. It can be your only practice and it'll be everything you need. Okay, so hopefully you can hear my metronome. Breathing in for 4. Okay, breathing in for 4. Okay, relax the shoulders. See how you feel. You may be able to detect a subtle change already in the way you feel. Just doing that. Now we're going to do the same with ooh. 4 in, 8 out. With ooh, relax. Tune into how you feel. Remember always, if you feel a bit odd, strange, or get anything unusual happen to you while you're breathing, always stop and go back to the default slow breath. We all okay with that? Good. Let's do same deal. Let's put that together with a 3-9 ratio. In for 3, take a deep breath. I mean, take a reasonable breath on 3, then 3 for ah, 3 for ooh, 3 for Let's do that 3 times. Relax the shoulders. Check out how you're feeling. Doing 3 ohms like that, you should feel a difference in the body. Check it out. Anybody with difficulty in breathing that ratio, 3 in, 9 out. If you have a difficulty, just relax and do the default breath while we do any more, or just do 1 and just leave it until you feel confident to do another one. Remember, always look after yourself. Proceed slowly and simply. We might try and do 4 in, 12 out, 4 for ah, 4 for ooh, 4 for Don't do it if 3 in and 9 out was problematic for you. Just do 3 in and 9 out, or just do the default breath. Everybody okay with that? Let's choose a nice note. Today, let's have a look. That's pretty good. That's pretty. What's that? D sharp. We're off.
Paul, someone has made a comment that the M sound seems to be an issue for them. Could certain sounds be more of an issue for people? Because there is a difference between each of them.
Absolutely. I mean, the M sound may be a problem because it is the humming sound. It's mainly going through the nasal cavity. It's resonating with the sinus problems, with sinus. So if you've got any problems with breathing through your nose or with your sinuses, it may feel a bit problematic. But I mean, it would be interesting to know what the actual problem is. So we just try and pin down if we have a problem in any area with a particular tone, with a particular sound. We just try and diagnose it, pin down, well, what actually is going on here? Some people are running out of breath a little bit when they get to M, for example. So I can answer more about that later on if the person wants to put that in as a question again. Any obs? Okay, let's do another 3. And that will conclude our Om practice for the day. Or we could go and do 9. Or we could go and do 27. Or if you wanted to stay for another hour, we could do 108. That would be cool. Think how you'd feel after doing 108 Oms. Oh, just blow you away, I tell you. But that would be maybe a bridge too far. We're going slow. Let's do 3 more Oms at 4:12. If you don't like that note, try and go a 3rd or a 5th above, just for harmony's sake. Okay. Relax. Check out how your body feels. Can you feel any subtle vibrations going on? Can you feel your energy body? It feels like it's something which is just a little bit pushing out from your body. It may have a subtle quality of vibration about it. Because this is what we're doing. We're charging the subtle body, as opposed to lots of other things we're doing with the physical body. We're charging the subtle body.
Paul, if I may, my body feels like it's tingling.
Yes. Is it tingling all over or just somewhere in particular? Your hands or around your lips or your feet?
Well, actually, sort of most of my body, but particularly in my fingers and lips, probably. But particularly my fingers is where I'm really noticing it.
Yeah, very good. So look, it sounds like you're charging up, charging your body, and you get that whole body kind of tingly, vibration thing going on. It could be because you've been breathing more deeply. You lowered your carbon dioxide a little bit, and you're getting tingling in the hands, around the mouth. But let's look on the positive side and say, yeah, you're charging your subtle body.
Yep.
And sometimes, of course, it's both. So you have lowered your CO2 a bit, but you're charging up, which is truly, truly excellent. Now, if you're going to be practicing this, find a note which is agreeable to you. You don't want to be alming on a note that's disagreeable to start with. Find a note that is agreeable. This note, it's very useful to have one of these little tone pipe thing or tone harmonica, because if you find an agreeable tone or a disagreeable one, you can record what that is and you can return to it, know where you are. Same with having the metronome. Always return to the same beat. We want to know where we are with the notes. And because I have a voice analysis program, I know what my weak notes are, which I need to practice on. So it's a bit of an oversimplification, but there is an important truth connected with this. Okay, so find an agreeable note. Know what note that is on your keyboard or one of these little things. Return to that note. As you become more comfortable doing the Om, then you can also put your attention on doing the A's, feeling the A's in the abdomen, the Oo's in the thorax, and the Ums in the head. It's easy to feel the Ums in the head. And it's quite easy to feel the Oo's in the chest. The feeling the Ah's in the abdomen is a little bit more subtle. Don't worry about it too much. Just do it. Relaxed, simple. Relaxed, simple. The main thing is, as with all of these things, do the practice. Do the practice. If you do the practice regularly for 3 months, and that's a bit of an ask for most of us, if you're not getting anything out of it, don't believe in pushing beyond a reasonable period of time. Try something else. Try another breathing practice or whatever. But I would be fairly confident that if you were doing OMS at say 412 fairly regularly, and you were able to do 27 a day, either in a block or say 3 lots of 9 during the day, that you would feel that it's a beneficial practice in one way or another, physically and mentally. Any questions on that?
I don't remember you telling us what the subtle body is. And I would like to give feedback that I felt I'm very relaxed. I was very sleepy anyway. I remain very sleepy, but I've got a very warm and pleasant glow in my center now.
Oh, very nice. Very, very good. Excellent.
I don't feel energized as such,
No.
but this is a very distinct and pleasant difference.
Very
But
good.
could you tell us briefly what you mean by the subtle body?
Well, I wish I knew what the subtle body was. But in esoteric tradition, both in, of course, in Chinese philosophy, in Indian philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, Hindu philosophy, and in the Western esoteric tradition and Kabbalistic tradition, that all these traditions speak about the fact that the physical body is built on a template provided by a more subtle energy body. The subtle or energy body. And that is called the etheric body or subtle body. And its actual nature from a 21st century physics point of view is unclear. Lots of work has been done on identifying subtle aspects of the human energy field. And of course, we have an electromagnetic field, so that's clear. I mean, we measure that when we do a heart tracing or a brain tracing or whatever. But the actual nature of this body in modern physical terms has not been identified. But it's got something to do with light. Something to do with light, something to do with photons. I won't mention the word quantum because that word is verboten. We must never use the word quantum because we don't know what we're talking about. Nobody does. But it's something to do with energy. It's something to do with information and a template which informs the functioning and formation of the physical body. More than this, I cannot say. And I'm sure you know that some people claim to be able to see the subtle body, to see the auric colors surrounding the body, the colors produced by the subtle body. and to be able to diagnose people's complaints from it. I worked with a doctor in London many years ago who used to diagnose using the subtle body. He used touch. He would go over the person and he would say, now look, here, you can feel the aura gushing here. There's a hole on the aura or whatever. And I would sort of dutifully put my hand there and of course not feel a darn thing. You know, nod sagely, but I could never feel it. I don't have many psychic powers. So, the subtle body, we imagine it, but we don't quite know what it is.
So this is not the same as chi.
Well, chi, prana, the chakras, the subtle body, the energy centers in the subtle body, the chakras, they're all entwined. And we will come on to the, with color, sound, and light in all its manifestations, both the visible and the invisible spectrum. So we will come on to that.
Okay.
And so I'll say a few words about that in a moment. Other ways of healing with the breath. And Om is definitely a way. It's a universal healing influence. Doesn't matter what ails you. You do Om, you'll be on the right track. The other things you can do with the breath specifically are if you have a particular part in your body which needs healing or a pain somewhere. Obviously, you can breathe through the pain or breathe through that part. So you just make yourself comfortable. And for example, right now, if you've got an ache or a pain somewhere, or there's a part that you know is ailing, we're going to breathe through the nose, but our mind will visualize inhaling through that part of the body and exhaling through that part of the body in whatever way you wish. We don't visualize bringing in the clean and then the breath, you know, a gray mist of toxins or whatever flowing out. We're just breathing through the part, in and out. Let's just do that for half a minute. That's ideal. Feel the part and feel the breath, feeling the breath moving through the part. Let's just do this for a little bit longer. Okay, it's a very good thing to do because breathing through a part relaxes the part. At the end of the day, most pathology in mind or body involves some sort of contraction, some sort of holding, some sort of way in which the natural flow of life energy, if we can call it that, has been obstructed. So the part becomes contracted, and then it, as a result, lacks nourishment on the physical level because the blood supply is subtly contracted, and on an energetic level because there is this psycho-physical contraction around that part. And, you know, once a part is painful or disturbed, then we develop fear and anxiety around that part, which exacerbates, of course, contraction. So the universal healing influence is relaxation. Relaxation, deep relaxation of the part, of the whole body, and the mind. Deep relaxation of the part, whole body, and the mind. Relaxation and nourishment. These are the keys in healing. Relaxation and nourishment. Now we can refine that breathing through the part practice by using a color if we wish. So we infuse the breath with a particular color. Now, what particular color? That is the vital question. This is a whole subject, huge subject, color healing, both using visualization and breath, but also using shining color lights on the body. Now, I'll recommend a couple of books. How to Heal with Color by Ted Andrews. Now, some of you may know Ted Andrews' work. He's written lots of books on healing, magic, Kabbalah, healing through nature. He covers many mystical disciplines, which might go under the general heading of traditional healing magic. How to Heal with Color. Like all of his books, they're straightforward, not complicated. He keeps it simple. That's what makes it very accessible. That's quite an old book, but I'm sure it's around because his works are very popular. Or you get something much more complicated. This book by Charles Klotsky. Whoa, it's got some heavy duty stuff in it, quite detailed and fascinating material about color healing and the Dinsha colors, the so-called Dinsha colors used for healing. Simple example of color healing using external color, of course, is people with thyroid problems. You might use a blue light and shine it on their thyroid because that's the color, well, for one thing, of that particular chakra, the Vishuddha energy center in the throat, which is traditionally associated with the color blue. But let's keep it simple. What is a healing color? Well, very simple rule to start with. If a part is inflamed or irritated, you're not going to use a color at the red end of the spectrum. If a color is, so you would use a coolish color. Green might be ideal. Green is a healing color. But if a part is very inflamed, very sore, irritated, then you might use a bluish color, a bluey green. If a part needs warming up, you might use, of course, a color near the red end of the spectrum. But you have to use your own authority. See what works for you. What's your intuition about what might work here? In general, if you use green, as we're in the middle of the spectrum, or you use a pinky gold, a sort of sunset color, you will generally be okay. But with pink and sunset colors, pinky gold, sunset, again, probably best not to use it in parts that are inflamed or irritated. So if you've got let's say you've got a painful part at the moment, an aching part, maybe you've got some aches and pains today because it's so cold. Maybe it's exacerbated your rheumatism. Then you might use color a little bit on the warm side, maybe an orangey yellow, might be nice. But you just see how it goes. Let's choose a color. The default color is green, if you're not sure where else to go on the spectrum. Let's breathe through the part with a breath that is that color. See how we go, what our impression is. Again, we're just trying something out. This is enlightened experimentation. We're just trying it out. See what comes. Let's just for a minute or two breathe through a part with the color we have chosen. The breath is that color, and we are feeling as well as seeing the breath in and out through that part. It doesn't matter whether you breathe out into the atmosphere, or for example, I'm doing my knee at the moment and the breath is just going up and down my leg. I'm not breathing it out into the atmosphere. You can breathe it out into the atmosphere, it's fine. There's no right way, just what feels right. Okay, let's just do that for a minute. Breathe with the color through part you have selected. Let's start now. Okay, any comments?
Is this called chromotherapy?
Chromotherapy, color therapy is one. Yeah, chromotherapy is one name for it, absolutely. A huge topic, huge.
It seems to be pretty big in the yoga world as well. What about red light therapy for healing? Because there's a lot of people that have far infrared saunas and use red light therapy to alleviate pain. It's also associated, you also often have heat with it as well.
Yeah.
Yet red doesn't come up on the chromotherapy is kind of like healing or calming inflammation. It's more increases physical energy, vitality, stamina, grounding, that kind of thing when I've looked it up.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Seems contra-indicated or totally different.
Yeah. Well, of course, look, I've got one of the infrared wraparound ones. Got a friend who's got the big screens. Obviously, the theory is that we are stimulating mitochondria. And of course, there's a lot of scientific evidence for efficacy. I don't know of any research which associates these devices with increasing inflammation. It just generally seems to be a tonic or neutral effect, whatever you're using it for. So, but look, it's early days. There's a lot of hype. But I agree, there's not an agreement there between the traditional approach and the use of red infrared on these devices at very specific frequencies, of course, it has to be said. And that's another aspect. I mean, the LEDs are producing very specific frequencies. And if you were using a spread of frequencies, as you would find in a normal red light filter, of course, it might be it's a bit of a different matter. But early days, yeah, I cannot comment any more than that. Certainly good for osteoarthritis, it seems. That's just my personal experience. But there are notable placebo effects at work here as well, of course. That's all I should say at the moment about that.
Excuse me, Paul. So what about the color purple? Because that's both red and blue. What would that sort of do?
Well, that elevates you to the royalty. And it would have you magically transported to Westminster Cathedral with a crown placed upon your head.
Uh-huh.
Purple and blue, yeah, look, it's an interesting combination. It's a royal color because it is that interesting combination which combines both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, because you can get either the blue purples like royal purple, or you can get the red purples like maroon.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if, because you were saying that like blue is cooling and red is warming.
Yeah.
If you've got the two together, do they counteract each other, or do they enhance each other, or?
Yeah.
What do they
Look,
do?
purple has very specific uses, color therapy, which leads me to point out, because I know we're running out of time, that the colors they use will very much depend not only on the condition, but on your constitution, the way you are constituted, your physical, emotional type. And that's where contradictions and paradoxes arise. Because if you are a kapha type, that is, you are someone who is prone to overweight, who has a phlegmatic, easygoing disposition, is very sociable, loves social ritual, loves ritual in general, and is reasonably optimistic, then you will not want to use colors that are at the blue end of the spectrum, because you're in Ayurveda, you're a mixture of water and earth, and you get bogged down in the mud. You get cold and bogged down. So you need heat and warmth to get you going. So you'll be using warm colors, but you wouldn't use purple, for example.
Okay.
It would be, some people said, well, you would use purple under certain circumstances, but let's put that aside. You would use warming colors. If, however, you are a more athletic, muscular person, very physically active, outgoing, loud, high energy, bit domineering, bit of a control freak, etc., you're a pitta type. You're a fire. You're a fire constitution, and if you use red, you're going to overstimulate yourself. And if you have an inflammatory injury, you may make it worse. So here's the crux in the paradoxes we see in which colors you use. I'm a Vata type, so I'm thin, low energy, anxious, cerebral, so on and so forth, cold. So I need warming colors, but because I'm sensitive as a Vata type, I don't want to be overstimulated by really bright warm colors like a bright red or a bright orange. So I've got to have nice warming pastel colors, not to excite me or stimulate me too much, but to warm me up, and so on and so forth. And when we get into the intricacies of constitution, where you're a mixture of one or two of these types, then it gets a little bit more complicated. And you certainly see great variations between people in the way they respond to color.
Okay. So does your so if you have a preference for a color or anything, does that, I guess the reason I'm asking is I'm obsessed with the color purple and I wear it pretty much all the time. Even my email address and everything sort of revolves around purple. So
well, I mean, look, one has to say there's a certain balance there, isn't there? You have melded the opposites in a harmonious whole of purple. And no doubt, Lindy, your life is an example of harmony and the blending, the reconciliation of the opposites.
I'm not sure that I'd say that, but maybe that's my mission on life.
That is your mission. Yes, that is your mission.
I progressed when I was a child. My favorite color was blue. And then sort of like in my 20s, when I started to get into esoteric stuff, I progressed to purple. I always liked purple, but purple became the favorite.
Yes. Yes. Well, look, I think that you are well placed. If we have any more seminars in the future, perhaps on temperament, on the doshas, that is the Ayurvedic constitutional types, and what they require in the way of colors, sound, diet, textures, etc., I am tasking you with presenting us with the ins and outs of purple.
Will do.
Excellent.
I love purple. I can tell you the reason why it was used for royalty is because it was the hardest and most expensive color to find.
Ah, right. Yes.
Yes. In the 1600s, the only way you could get it was from a particular type of beetle.
Wow.
And they had to crush that beetle in order to produce it. And because it was so hard to find, that was why it was so rare and so expensive. And that was a large part of why it was royalty.
How interesting. How interesting. Wow. Well, excellent. I think you'll be talking to us more about purple.
Also, it's in the chakras, it's the highest level of the chakras. And also, if you look at the suffragette movement, purple is one of the main colors of the suffragette movement.
True. Now, that is true. Absolutely. So interesting.
Purple and green and sometimes white. But yeah.
Yeah. So that reminds me, you mentioned chakras. That is really the next step when we consider color and healing. I mean, there's so much literature on the energy centers, the chakras in the subtle body. And of course, the chakras is a term we take from Hindu esotericism, yoga philosophy, and a lot has been written about working with the chakras, the different energy centers, what the different energy centers mean, how to work with them, and their various associations with color, sound, etc.
Sheila here.
Sheila, hello, Sheila. Yes.
Before we move on, and could you say briefly what your understanding is of how visualizing a color whilst breathing or shining a light on a part works, please?
Did you say briefly?
Yeah, I did.
Right.
Or maybe you don't choose to have an understanding and you choose to believe it works because in your experience it works, which is an answer in itself.
Which is an answer, yeah. I mean, first of all, that's a very good point. To have faith. Yes, I intuitively have faith that this is a good thing to do. It really resonates with me. That's, of course, 90% of the battle. If you're a reductionist, a materialist, you don't believe in any other reality than what you can touch, you're a doubting Thomas, well, you're done before you start, basically. And as Martin Brofman says in his book, Anything Can Be Healed, which is an excellent book about healing and the chakras, excellent book. I think it's the best one, honestly, I really do. He says right at the start, the same thing. He says, we must get away from the idea that there's only one way that things work, just one reality. Yeah, there are different realities. And if you're a materialist, you've only got one reality. So it's helpful to have that belief. Things happen not just in the material realm, but in this process of breathing through a part, say with a color, on the material realm, one, it works through relaxation, and two, it works through relaxation, and three, it works through relaxation. And then on the more subtle levels, it works because vibrations work. Vibrational medicine works. We are harmonizing the part. We are trying to bring that part back into harmony with the rest of the body. And as we were discussing last time, it's vibrations all the way down in the universe and in the body. Every cell in the body has its own little rhythm. That's been established scientifically, for what it's worth. That cell has to harmonize with the other cells in the tissue around it. That tissue has to harmonize with the other tissues in the organ it's part of. That organ has to harmonize with all the way up, all the way down. Vibrational harmony. And this is what we're doing. We're trying to reconnect part with the whole. We're trying to entrain coherence in the same way that we entrained coherence between the heart and the breathing when we were doing the rhythmic breath. And I showed you the very harmonious pulse going up and down in a lovely regular fashion, which was the harmony of the breathing and the pulse. So we are harmonizing in many ways, but on a simple everyday level, we're relaxing. And if the mind likes that color, and if the mind likes that ritual, which we are indulging through that healing process, if there's there, if there's and that's so important. If I like this, if it appeals to me, if it's a lovely tasting meal, it's going to do me good. in the same way that, I know I'm going on a bit here, it's so important. With food, that's a whole other subject, which we can talk about another day. With food, if I truly enjoy a meal, then, which has got some things which I know I shouldn't eat in it. But if I truly enjoy a meal, it's going to be better for me than if I have a meal that I know is good for me, which I am not enjoying. We know why this is, because of the so-called cephalic phase of digestion. If you're enjoying a meal, smelling it, seeing it, tasting it, chewing it, swallowing it, then a whole set of hormones are going on in the gut, which are going to treat that food well, assimilate it well. But if you're eating a great pot of coleslaw and cottage cheese on a cold day, well, I mean, that's not going to do you any good. As I found out many years ago with my experiments on myself.
I can understand that if I'm breathing a color that I believe will be beneficial to me, it will be beneficial to me. Are you saying it's the same that if I shine a light that I believe is beneficial on a part, it is beneficial? Or if the light color itself is beneficial, whether I believe it or not?
Both.
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 So how do you understand that that light that I'm shining on the part is doing anything? Are you saying that's vibrations of the color?
Yeah, I'm saying, look, as a simple.
Sorry, I've got a scientific background like you. I've got to understand.
Yeah, well, we don't understand. I mean, I think that's the best way to go on that.
That's an answer. If you don't understand, but it works, that's an answer too.
Yeah. I'm happy with the subtle body theory, and that the subtle body is a vibrational body, and that we are addressing this subtle energetic template upon which the body is built.
Okay.
So I'm in Rupert Sheldrake territory, morphic fields and all of that jazz.
Right. I can accept if it works, that's fine. I can accept that.
Yeah. And this is the problem with science in the 21st century. Scientists are not willing to try things out which they don't already have a theory for. That's why you can't get a grant to do something really interesting unless you put up a plausible theory, rather than really just finding out if something works and then scratching your head afterwards. Oh, how does this work?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Then I can talk a bit about what we can explore further.
We do have some questions from previous people. If we can perhaps go over some of those, do you think? If you've completed this.
Yeah, we do. And look, should we meet again, we would talk about constitutional type. One of my favorite topic, and which, I wrote that thing, Hawk Stuffs and Other Humans, about. This is such an interesting topic. And it begins to focus down on individual prescription, not cookbook prescriptions for everybody. What should I do for this? What should I do for that? But honing in on what you as an individual need based on your constitutional type and other factors. And look, I've got some questions in front of me here. One is the question about breathing and weight loss. Look, there are no specific breathing practices for weight loss. Breathing hasn't been connected in any specific way with weight loss, to my knowledge. But the point is that if you are doing regular breathing practice and it's harmonizing your body, then your weight will tend towards harmonizing. And there's a little proviso there, which is that if you're doing some of the higher counts, say on rhythmic breath, it does actually not necessarily higher counts, but you're doing really conscientious rhythmic breath practice, you will find that you tend to warm up doing it, even though you're not exerting yourself particularly. You tend to warm up. A sign, obviously, that you're stimulating your metabolism. And the problem that most people who've repeatedly tried to lose weight have is, of course, that they have repeatedly dieted. When you diet, you turn your metabolism down, and it doesn't necessarily turn up easily because you've told the body, oh, the body's thinking, oh gosh, you know, starvation's coming on quite often here. I'm going to turn down and I'm going to stay down. And that's when you get a real problem with weight loss. Not only do you feel wretched, you're depressed, you're cold, you're low in energy, and you're stuck at a weight which doesn't respond to further calorie restriction. Another topic for another day. Somebody has asked me about, what was it called? Holosync meditation, using a CD with inbuilt sound frequencies to do things to the brain. There are so many of these products which either embed different frequencies in sound or produce a binaural beat kind of pattern, which claim to, harmonize, balance the brain, get you into deep states of relaxation, etc., etc. These came to prominence back in the late 80s and 90s. I used a lot of them. None of them ever agreed with me. I always felt they were messing with my brain, so I just dropped their use. Some people seem to get benefits from them, but I cannot comment more than that. Oh yes, an ideal breath ratio for weight loss. There isn't such a thing, of course. But does the nasal swap breathing mean it forces more oxygen to particular parts of the brain? No. The brain is always pretty well oxygenated, whatever you're doing. So it's just stimulating the brain through the nervous system to activate the brain, nothing to do with oxygen. What exactly should a 20-minute daily practice be? A 20-minute daily practice should be whatever you want it to be, as long as you're doing it, as long as it's not aversive, as long as it's not a real pain in the neck. It can be a bit of a pain in the neck to start any new practice, of course, but if it continues to be a pain in the neck, don't do it. Go and do something else. Go and sit in nature. Chill out. Do whatever is easier and which you're going to maintain. Whatever practice you're going to be able to maintain and which feels good and which relaxes you and which gives you tangible benefits after a reasonable period of time, just do that practice. Whatever it is. And it can be just sitting in nature with a cup of tea, just chilling out and just being present to your surroundings. It's pretty much as good as anything, in my opinion. I think probably that's.
Paul, can I ask you a question about intermittent fasting?
Yes. What do you mean by intermittent fasting?
So, like, there's a thing where intermittent fasting where you fast for sort of like 16 hours a day and you eat only for 8 hours of the day. You're allowed to have water and things like that, but in order to give the liver and the digestion and various other parts of the body time to rest, repair, relax.
Yeah.
But you seem to say that the first thing you do when you get up is eat. But if you're doing intermittent fasting, that's not going to be the first thing you do.
No, indeed. My natural eating routine, which has evolved over the years, is to finish eating at night by 6 o'clock and not to eat again till breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning. That for me, for my constitution, is a reasonable routine.
So that's already 14 hours anyway.
That's 14 hours anyway. Now, it's a reasonable routine because I'm a Vata type, and Because Vata types, they need to eat, and they need to have breakfast. No question. No question. They need to have breakfast. So I have to have my breakfast, and I'm really hungry. And I respect my body, and yes, body's saying, my God, we've gone 14 hours. We're almost running out of glycogen, that is the storage form of carbohydrate. For God's sake, give us a carbohydrate type breakfast. Great. If I was a Pitta types often skip breakfast with no trouble. In fact, they're not even hungry at breakfast time because they're so anxious to get into the day. They're hot, they leap out of bed. Oh gosh, what can I do today?
They obviously don't have CFS.
No, Pitta types never get chronic fatigue. Never. Vata and Kapha types do. Pitta types don't, unless they have completely gone nuts for years and completely overextended themselves for a long period of time. And then, of course, everybody runs out of energy sooner or later, even Pitta types. But generally, they don't want breakfast. And you would probably find, I don't know if it's the truth of this, but you'd probably find that those people who advocate the 16-hour or longer fasts are all Pitta types. They're all Pitta types of a tendency who have a bit of a Kapha element and tend to put on weight at the same time. So they're very efficient at storing energy. They don't want breakfast. Oh yeah, look, don't eat anything till lunchtime. It does not apply to everyone. You have to be your own authority.
Yeah, no, I just thought I would ask because it's a lot of people spruik it, and I, until I had a bad interaction with a drug that I was given by an immunologist, was doing it. And I guess dinner is far more important to me than breakfast generally is.
Right. Okay.
It takes my system time to wake up in
Yes.
order to want to eat. If I
Yes.
there are times where I'll eat and I go, oh, I'm really struggling to eat this, but I know I've got to eat because I've got to fast for something else or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I know of some people that it works remarkably well for.
Yeah.
But I also know of other people who seem to struggle with it.
Absolutely. Fasting in general, true fasting, where you go for a few days or a week or two without solid food or with just juices, is an incredibly interesting topic, which I used to be very, very interested in. And it's one of those things that got me interested in constitutional type, because it's great for some people and it's disastrous for others. So, yeah. One person's meat is another person's poison. That is for sure. Yeah. Thank you. Great question.
If there's any more questions, or ask if there's any final questions back on topic with the breath work. So it sounds like we might have to do something else which involves intermittent fasting and the whole gamut of health as well.
Sure.
Is there anybody else got any other question? There was one which said in regards to breathing for sleep apnea, and I did a quick look up and found that on a sleep site that alternative nostril breathing was helpful for sleep apnea. Do you want to comment on that?
Look, I think any form of breathing practice is good for sleep apnea. So I'm not surprised that somebody has maybe done some research on alternate nostril breathing. Any breathing practice which stretches your lungs a little bit, makes a little bit of a dynamic impact on your breathing, particularly rhythmic breath or umming. Particularly rhythmic breath will have an impact on sleep apnea. I am confident. I don't know of any research which points to any other specific breathing practices, but I am confident. You've got to breathe and really start breathing. Yeah.
Okay, so I did sort of say and promise people that if you attended live today, there would be some free giveaways.
All right. Well,
so I'll turn my camera back on. And I'll hold that up. Can we see it? Probably
Oh,
not.
yes. Oh, yes. Oh, no, it's gone dark. Oh, there we go.
It's hard with me. Anyway, what it is, it's Paul has very kindly, and with conjunction with ourselves, have got 5 books to give away. And it's a physical book, so we'll have to post it out to you. So you need to let me know, and first in, first served. So it's going to be to email me at info@conqueringchronicillness.org. And the first 5 that get to me, I will send out, and I'll arrange to send out a free book for you. And that's called Living Space. But for everybody else, we've also got another freebie, and that is Paul's first book, which is called again, Paul?
Pork Stuffs and Other Humans.
Pork Stuffs and Other Humans, and that we can email to you as a free PDF that he's very, very kindly donated to us as well. So that's much easier to get out to you. So again, email me that you'd like of that particular book. So I've only got 5 physical books, but everybody else, and I think there's 11 of us here, well, 9 others, can get the PDF as well. So that's for attending today. We did have 20 people at other times, so they miss out because they didn't turn up today.
That's now, Peter, nobody can say we're not looking after them.
Definitely. Somebody twists my arm, we might be able to deliver a PDF to other people as well. But we shall see, which means you'll also sign up to our email subscription. And I'll send you tons of emails. No, I won't. It'll be just occasional emails and reminders of when we have new programs and things like that as well. So info@conqueringchronicillness.org.
Thank you everybody for listening and for practicing. It's been delightful for me, and keeps me on my toes, keeps my brain active, as they say in Ayurvedic medicine. Keep your body moving, keep your bowels moving, keep your breathing moving, keep your brain moving. All will be well. And so I wish you all well, and hopefully we can meet again.